So long as like Alchemy.
NBA Alchemy, episode 7, October 24th, Wednesday morning. I've had 2 Warrior games, and I know a lot of you are expecting my Warrior take right away, so I'm going to give it to you. So Golden State took their first L, Sunday evening in Denver, and I'm sure most of you saw this coming, right? You have the emotional victory Friday in Utah, then you travel to Denver, continue on in the altitude. And the game, unfortunately, I think the story of the game was the refereeing. Why the 2-time MVP can't seem to draw a whistle going to the basket, I don't know. And it's just consistency. Look, a block charge call, the moving screens, the moving off ball action, I know they're trying to clean that up, and that's very subjective. But if you're calling touch fouls on shots, it's got to be the same both ways. And that was the problem I think KD and the Warriors were having along with Steph, right? The funny thing about that was it kind of felt like they were coasting along, and they really were kind of indifferent about the outcome of the game until the refs were slighting them. Then that kind of fired them up and motivated them to try to win the game, but it didn't happen. I want to bring up that last play to Damian Jones. I'm perfectly fine with Steph making that move, and I think you have to take into account he's driving there down the left side, and he hadn't gotten a whistle all night, so why was he going to get one there, right? You know, 2 defenders are closing in on him, and he knows they're not going to blow the whistle, so he kicks it down to the young player, and I've talked about Damian's lack of quickness off the floor, and you saw Hernan Gomez, with the game-winning block. I do want to point out one thing. You saw that game the other day against Portland and Washington. Same play for Dame Lillard, and he forces it all the way to the rim instead of making the pass. Those of you that want to talk about Dame is the same as Steph statistically, no, he's not, because Steph's decision-making and his unselfishness as a leader is just better than Dame. And Dame is the pride of Oakland. I love him. I'm just telling you what it is. He's just a more selfish basketball player than Steph. That's what it is. I want to talk a little bit about Denver, right? They're off to like a 3-0. Is it 4-0 at this point? I think they beat who did they beat? They beat somebody last night, Sacramento, right? Will Barton just had hip surgery. It sounds sketchy. It sounds sketchy, and he's a nice piece for them. Now, I like Denver as a playoff team, but there's a couple of things that I want to make note of is the injury history of, you see Barton going down, and then Paul Millsap looks like he's really aged. He looks like he's lost a step, maybe 2. And then as much as Jokic is, as skilled as Jokic is, he's kind of like the anti-Denver athlete, right? Because Denver, it has the greatest home field advantage in all of sports, right? Whether it's football, basketball, hockey, they utilize that elevation. They play fast and they like fast athletes. And Jokic is this plodding, slow player, right? As skilled as he is, it's just kind of contrasting to the rest of the roster. And I know that defensively, that's their focus this year. And so there's a cost to everything. That's one of my favorite lines. And so you're going to see the shooting percentage across the board go down for Denver. Young Murray, Harris, all these guys, they're not going to shoot it quite as well because they're exerting more energy on the defensive end. That's just the way it goes. I'm not saying it's going to, I think it's a good balance. I think Mike Malone is right in stressing that. But I'm just curious with Jokic at the end of games. I know that they're having him kind of soft, medium hedge off pick and rolls rather than retreat into the paint. And I don't think the league is adjusted to that yet. I think you're going to see guys come firing off at Jokic and get him in foul trouble as they adjust to the new defensive scheme in Denver. I'm gonna work a little slower on this episode because I've got a lot to cover. There was a lot of games I wanted to talk about. So, second Warrior game was that Suns game. And I brought this up in my Patreon video. For so many years now, the Suns have been a chicken soup team. Meaning if you're coming off a loss or you're struggling, you're sick, right? You get right by having some chicken soup or playing the Suns. Now, I'm excited for the Suns. And, I think everybody jumped the gun a little bit in that first win against Dallas. They looked really good, and now they haven't. Devin Booker, I saw some things that made me kind of question him being the guy, right? And it has nothing to do with necessarily with his offense. A little bit. One, I just think we compare him to a young Kobe, right? And his mentality, pure scorer, right? The size, just the footwork, right? One, he's very right hand dominant. If you make him have to change directions to the left, it's a problem for him. But his size and his shooting ability, it's not as apparent maybe. He's just not a natural playmaker. But really what disturbed me was his effort on the defensive end. It's one thing when you're lacking, like his teammate Ryan Anderson, physically. But Book's not lacking physically. He just really doesn't take much pride in it. He doesn't, you know the phrase, stay ready so you ain't got to get ready? He doesn't stay ready on defense. So when it's time to fight over screens or under screens or make a play, it's like almost, he's standing upright. Then he dips down into his hips and he's reacting. He's not reading. He's not anticipating. And then it doesn't really seem to bother him. And that, I don't like that sign. It should bother him when guys get buckets on him. And you look at the Suns lineup, Ryan Anderson, we know his limitations, but with him and Book on the floor at the same time, it's a gaping hole. And I think that's where, Igor and this Suns team are going to have to make some rotational changes. And as they continue to take L's, as they will this year, it's still a growth year. You're going to have to see Mikal Bridges in there. Right? 10th pick. I love that move for them out of Villanova because he's a long defender. He's going to take his lumps as well, but I don't think you can have two minus defenders on the floor at the same time. Obviously, Book is going to stay on the floor. Now, in that Warriors game, I thought Clay got back to doing Clay-like things, and you could tell he was struggling and pressing and forcing up shots. And young players, basketball players, you want to know how you relieve pressure out of a shooting slump? Is you just make the basketball play. Make the extra pass. Contribute in other ways. Play defense, hit the glass, right? Do the little extra things, and that will relieve the pressure of the shooting slump because you're contributing to your team in another way. So then all of a sudden you can just play basketball. And you saw the mid-range game start to go for Clay against Book. He didn't really hit any threes, but I thought the Warriors shot more threes, and Steph's just in MVP mode. Don't look now, but Steph's in MVP mode. I think he's going for 30 a game. The 30-year-old wearing 30 wants to average 30. And I think that's, I'm not blaming him for it. I just think, he's dropped 30 a game. And what else? And then other notes from that Suns game. Jerebko, he looks like what we wanted him to look like, right? He has already hit half the amount of threes Amari Caspi hit all of last year. Caspi hit 10. Jerebko has 5. And his size, he's able to get it off. And then what I didn't expect was how physical he is. He's a little bit chippy in the paint. He likes to mix things up. And that's much needed when you consider that we lost Zaza and David West, right? So that was a nice game. As far as the Suns go, also, Isaiah Cannon, I'm not sure he's an NBA player. I like Ayton. He's not aggressive as you would like him to be or as physical as he could be. But they got to get him a playmaker. Book is not that playmaker. Keenan is not that playmaker. And so as far as roster moves, I think you may have to cough up a TJ Warren. You may have to cough up a TJ Warren or somebody to get some sort of playmaking guard in there. What else happened? I think it was, y'all see Boston struggling here? I forewarned you about this chemistry mix. I brought this up. Those of you paying attention. And I want to speak a little bit about Orlando. I know it's so early to pass complete judgment. We know Boston's going to be fine. There's too much talent. Their coaching is too good. They're going to have to work some things out. There could be a trade on the horizon. But I wanted to bring up Orlando in how they have 3 modern day bigs. You've got Mo Bamba, right? You've got Jonathan Isaac and you've got Aaron Gordon. And the modern day big, it's not about, post play or necessarily rim protection at the rim. It's switchability and being able to challenge 3 balls and rebound. And so that's what all 3 of those guys can do. It's an interesting mix, and you saw their length and athleticism bother Boston. Some of it Boston did to themselves, right? The chemistry. But I think it's interesting. Orlando is going to be, there's some things to be excited for. I remember I was dissing the Magic, or I was saying, I ain't never heard of no Magic fan, right? I know they're out there. And shout out to my guy that was like, I am one. I was like, oh, for sure. But y'all have something to be excited about. I like Jonathan Isaac. I think he I think he potentially is your best offensive player. I know that was like a career high 17 for him in that game. The one thing about AG, the Bay's finest, man, another player I have love for. Why am I dissing all the hometown boys? But I got to do what I got to do. I hate to say it, but Gordon, you know what he seems like? He seems like that Instagram video workout guy. He seems like the workout video guy right now. Now, we all know he's crazy athletic, right? And the defense is there. But it's like you see all these videos of him in the summer hitting threes and working on the handles. And then you see him in the game and it doesn't quite translate. I know, like, every now and then he'll show a flash of it, but it doesn't seem natural. It's just not smooth. He's just never going to be a smooth offensive player in my mind at this point, because we've seen he's had plenty of time to become that. But keep your eye on Orlando and their defensive versatility. I don't know if you can keep all three of those guys. You may have to make a move. They gave Gordon the bag, so that'll be interesting. As far as Boston goes. And who brought this up? I think it was Jalen on Jalen and Jacoby. I've been thinking this for a while. I know Jalen likes to stake claim to like being early on shit, bro. A lot of people be thinking what you're thinking, but Kyrie, Ainge may not bring back Kyrie, right? Like at a max bag when you could get Rozier for, I don't know. It's too early to start thinking about the logistics of it, but that's definitely on the table. Let's move away from that. Let's go on to that Lakers-Spurs game. You know what I was thinking about watching that game was the Spurs, they shouldn't have last names on the back of their jerseys because the system is the superstar. And it's just what it is. Now, Aldridge, the funniest thing, I know there was a lot of dramatics in the game was great. The funniest thing to me in the game was when JaVale got in foul trouble and Zubac comes in and Luke lets Aldridge take his cheeks one-on-one for like 8 minutes in the game. And whoever was calling the game, was it players only? They were like, yo, you got to send a double. You could feel bad. I don't know why. It was almost like an initiation. They were letting Zubac just like get initiated to the league. And that was a poor decision by Luke in my eyes. Now, DeMar wasn't exactly efficient, but he gets where he wants to on the floor, and he's willing to pass the ball. That's going to work out just fine. The Spurs looked nice, man. They did. They looked nice. What else did I have takeaways from that? Josh Hart's got the juice, and I'm not telling you something y'all don't know. I don't know why I'm itchy this morning here. I don't know. I just, but the weather's changing over where I'm at. But Josh Hart's got the juice. Now, the one thing I question about him is he drives to the hoop with reckless abandon. He finishes to his credit, but there's an element of kamikaze to Josh Hart's game. I think he tweaked the ankle in overtime or towards the end of that game, or the knee. And I don't know if he can stay healthy with the kamikaze effect that he has in his game. Maybe he can lend some of that kamikaze to Lonzo, because I know y'all saw it. Lonzo, how many times did he get to the basket and kind of do like a 180 and try to pass it out? Like, I don't know if he doesn't want to shoot free throws or he's not confident in his knee jumping yet, but once he gets into the paint, he's going to have to at some point attack the rim and try to dunk that or get to the line. Now, with LeBron, we can talk about the free throws. That's not surprising, right? And I had already mentioned him, warming up into the season and looking a little bit slow. But the one thing that was telling to me that gives you an insight into his, we're talking about good teammates and bad teammates and Rondo and CP3, right? Was there was a sequence where Josh Hart fronted, someone was trying to post him up. He three-quartered him, stole the ball, and batted it down the sidelines. And then Lonzo saved it, right, and flips it to LeBron, and LeBron gets the layup. And after he gets the layup, instead of going and dapping up Lonzo and Josh Hart, who really made the play, he turns to the crowd and he's doing this celebration while he turns his back to his teammates while they're all trying to like circle up and congratulate each other. And that was one of those little like just little flash blink moments where it's like, man, I don't like that. But 0-3, it's too early. We knew I don't have like a huge takeaway from the game. It was entertaining, but it was just those little thin slice moments of LeBron with his teammates. I know y'all see the memes going around. Obviously, stay down and your teammate's going to help you up. I haven't seen LeBron help one teammate up. I'm just saying. But it's early on for that one. I talked about the Dame and that drive. What else do I have on this one here? How could I forget? Now, there's a player out there that I kind of want to reintroduce to y'all. You know, he's someone that you may be familiar with, but people have forgotten. And he's kind of changed his game. And that player is Bubble Guts Braun, aka Blake Griffin. And you say, what? Bubble Guts Braun? What the hell is this dude talking about? Now, follow me here for a second. Blake Griffin in Detroit is playing point forward. He's kind of stiff and upright, right? His game, it's not exactly smooth, but with his big frame and body, he uses that to gain separation. And like I said, it's not smooth, but hey, it goes in. He can pass, he can shoot a little, he can finish at the rim. But it's not quite Braun, right? It's not quite Braun. It's Bubble Gut Braun because he's not quite as confident in his stride, right? You know, when you got the guts, the bubble guts, you're not quite sure. You want to aggressively take a step this way or that way. I'm messing with y'all, man. I'm messing with y'all. But I watched that Pistons Philly game last night, and it struck me that there's some similarities between Blake and LeBron, right? At this point in how their games have altered kind of and look like each other's. One, did Blake shrink? Maybe it was Embiid and Drummond out there, but Blake looks small out there. But he was playing point forward. Clearly, he's been working on his shot, and he had a career-high 50 points. It was an amazing game. I've got quite a few takes on this. But if you watch him, there's some similarities to he and LeBron. Now, obviously, he's not the passer. And like I said, Bubble Gut Braun, he's not quite as smooth up and down the court. But it's almost like ISO Braun. When LeBron's looking to score ISO, and Blake, their games are very similar offensively. But the other takeaway from this game was Joel Embiid and Andre Drummond.
Your soul is mine.
Woo-hoo-hoo. It was kind of hard to watch a little bit how he was taking that boy's soul, man. Drummond, I don't know if, man, I know the Pistons are 3-0, but I have to say it crossed my mind throughout the game with some of the things I saw Drummond do. I was like, if I'm Dwayne Casey, I don't know if I should have taken this job. First off, you got like 3,200 people in attendance. And some of the shit Drummond did, you know who Drummond is? Drummond is your boy in high school who is forced to play basketball, right? He was 6'10", 250 pounds, and they were like, "Oh boy, you playing ball," right? But really, all Drummond really wanted to do was like play the trombone, right? Or be in the band, right? He ain't got the juice. His basketball IQ ain't the brightest. And Embiid was just snatching his soul, man. And it was fun to watch. But credit to Blake Griffin. I don't know if he can keep it up. We all know the question with Blake is, can he stay on the court? But he's playing at his own pace, man. He's slowed down and he's playing point forward, man. So I don't know. I don't think they have, the East is wide open. I think they'll be in playoff contention with the better coaching, and if Blake can stay healthy. Who's Reggie Bullock? Is it Reggie Bullock?
Who the fuck is that guy?
Right? He looked like he's 38, right? But isn't he like a second-year player? And that was a brilliant play at the end there because that dribble handoff, he'd been handing off to Bullock for that dribble handoff pop all game, and then it was the fake dribble handoff, and Blake went in for the and one, and that was a special moment for him, and it was a fun game, man. So tonight the Warriors have the Wizards. Now, y'all remember last year, Beal and Draymond got into it. He ripped his jersey, and there's always some chippiness involved with the Wizards because it's almost like they talk that shit, they come out, they don't back it up on the court, they start taking the L, and then they get chippy. So I expect an entertaining one at Oracle Arena tonight. I'll be back with another episode Friday and the Patreon recap the morning after the game. Hit that like, share, and subscribe. I'm out, y'all.
I've been winning so long, it's like alchemy.